Seb 1, 1980 Briggs & Stratton Hybrid. Typically, concept cars are introduced by major automakers, but in 1980, small engine manufacturer Briggs & Stratton presented a unique creation from the Malaise era. A six-wheel hatchback featuring a BNS 18-horsepower air-cooled twin-cylinder engine, paired with an 8-horsepower electric motor. This setup allowed the car to run on either power source independently or together. The additional axle was used to support 10 batteries housed in the trunk. Similar to modern plug-in hybrid electric vehicles, PHEVs, the batteries could be charged through braking, engine operation, or by plugging in. While its acceleration was slow, the car could eventually reach 60 miles per hour, and a careful driver could achieve up to 85 miles per gallon. Briggs & Stratton still owns the vehicle, and it was showcased on Jay Leno's Garage. 2. 1981 Ford Probe 3. Before the controversial Probe name was used for a production model, it was featured on a series of concept cars. In an era when most Ford vehicles were still boxy, the Probe 3 provided a glimpse of the aero styling that would later define Ford's design in the late 1980s. The Probe 3 essentially previewed the 1982 Sierra, a car intended for the European market that would later arrive in the US as the Merkur XR4 Ti. It also introduced design elements that would be seen on the groundbreaking 1986 Taurus, as well as the louvered taillights that would appear on the 1988 Ford Mustang GT. 3. 1984 Ford Maya. In the 1980s, Ford seriously considered developing a mid-engine two-seat sports car for the American market, and the fully functional Maya concept gave us a look at what that car might have been. The planned production car was to be powered by a 250 horsepower, 3.0-liter, 24-valve V6 engine, co-developed with Yamaha. Although the concept car featured a less powerful engine as a placeholder, the styling was handled by renowned Ghia designer Giugiaro. Some criticized the design for resembling his Lotus Etna concept, but it could easily be seen as a strong alternative to the BMW M1. Ford later created a few additional concepts based on this idea, but the project was eventually canceled. The engine from the Maya would later appear in the Ford Taurus SHO, and Ford would go on to produce another mid-engine supercar later on. 4. 1986 Chevrolet Corvette Indy. Chevrolet is well known for developing several mid-engine Corvette prototypes before eventually bringing one to production. Among all the mid-engine Corvette concepts, the 1986 Corvette stands out as one of the most captivating. It featured a 600-plus horsepower twin-turbo, 2.65-liter V8 engine, a body made of Kevlar and carbon fiber, active suspension, four-wheel drive, and four-wheel steer-by-wire. The Indy concept later evolved into the 1990 CER-V3, which appeared to be nearly ready for production, although it wasn't. Unfortunately, it took nearly 25 years before Chevrolet finally brought the mid-engine Corvette to life. 5. 1986 Pontiac Transport. In the mid-1980s, Chrysler's minivans were highly popular, prompting other automakers to rush to develop their own family-friendly vans. Pontiac introduced its vision of a family hauler with the Transport concept, which featured a composite body, gull-wing rear doors, a glass roof, and even a built-in Nintendo Entertainment System. The vehicle was powered by an experimental 2.9-liter turbocharged V6 engine, and its two-tone paint and groove side cladding reflected the styling trends of contemporary Pontiacs. Unfortunately, when the production version arrived in 1990, it turned out to be one of GM's disappointing dustbuster vans, lacking the excitement and appeal of the concept. 6. 1987 Chrysler and Lamborghini Pinot. After acquiring Lamborghini in 1987, Chrysler adapted a design by Kevin Verduin called the Navajo and modified it to fit a stretched Lamborghini Jalpa platform, naming it the Pinot, not to be confused with the Ferrari Pinot. This mid-engine four-door sedan featured scissor-style doors and was intended to explore the potential for a Lamborghini sedan, an idea Porsche would later realize 2 decades later. Although Chrysler never produced a four-door Lamborghini, the Pinot's styling influenced some of Chrysler's boldest and most successful designs, including the Dodge Intrepid, Chrysler Concorde, and Eagle Vision. Yeti. Bindoca's used Sexton Yeti Lincoln Vigal. Alfredo Vigal, a former designer at Pininfarina, eventually had his company acquired by Ford, and the Vigel name was used for a concept high-end Lincoln Roadster. The Vigel was envisioned as a competitor to Cadillac's Alente, which entered production in 1987. It was likely meant to position Ford in case the Alente succeeded, but since the Alente became one of GM's major failures of the 1980s, the Vigel never made it to production. Today, the Vigel name is used for high-end Ford models in Europe. 8. 1987 Oldsmobile Aerotech. The Oldsmobile Aerotech was created to showcase Oldsmobile's new Quad 4 engine, a 2.3-liter four-cylinder with dual overhead cams and 16 valves. While this was considered cutting-edge technology in the mid-80s, it was especially notable for Detroit, which had struggled to produce quality four-cylinder engines. Designed by the renowned Ed Welburn, the Aerotech was built on an IndyCar chassis and functioned as a rolling aerodynamics test platform. With turbocharging, the Quad 4 engine was boosted to 900 horsepower, far more than the 151 horsepower it produced in its standard form. A.J. Foyt drove the car to 218 miles per hour, and a second version reached 275 miles per hour. The Aerotech generated significant positive attention for the Quad 4 engine. Cadillac Voyage in Solitaire. The Cadillac Voyage was a full-size, aero-friendly all-wheel drive concept, powered by a 275 horsepower version of the 4.5-liter V8 engine. Its design may look familiar, as it would later inspire the 1993 Cadillac Fleetwood, although the concept resembled the 1991 Chevrolet Caprice more closely. In 1989, Cadillac introduced the Solitaire, a two-door version featuring a 430 horsepower, 6.6-liter V12 engine. Although a two-door version of the 90s, Fleetwood never reached production. Elements of the Solitaire's rear design, including its backlight and trunk lid, would influence the 1992 Cadillac Eldorado. GMC Centaur. The GMC Centaur, a hybrid of a van and a truck, clearly took inspiration from the man-whore concept it was named after. The goal was to combine the practicality of a family hauler with the utility of a pickup, and the Centaur achieved this. To maximize interior space, its 3.0-liter straight-six engine was placed under the bed and ahead of the rear axle. Four-wheel steering improved its maneuverability, and the front end closely resembled the 1986 Pontiac Transport concept. Although this concept never reached production, GMC was on target with its idea, as the demand for family-friendly crew cab pickup trucks is now well recognized and widely popular. 11. 1988 Pontiac Banshee 4. The Banshee was a series of Pontiac concept cars produced from 1964 to 1988. The final Banshee was billed by Pontiac as the future of driving excitement, and it truly embodied that vision. Its design served as a precursor to the fourth-generation 1993 Firebird and, to a lesser extent, the Chevy Camaro. Created both as a functional prototype and a styling concept, the Banshee was a fully operational car, powered by a 230 horsepower 4.0-liter fuel-injected V8 with overhead cam cylinder heads integrated into the block. The car also featured advanced technology such as adjustable pedals, moving map navigation, and a head-up display. 12th, 1989 Dodge Viper RT/10. The 1989 Dodge Viper RT/10 concept was a breathtaking modern version of the Shelby 427 Cobra, powered by an enormous 10-cylinder engine that was intended to be shared with future Ram pickups. While the concept featured a V10 engine, it was reportedly a makeshift unit created by combining two V8s and was not related to the production engine. The response to the Viper concept at the 1989 Detroit Auto Show was overwhelmingly positive, prompting Chrysler to move forward with it. When the production Viper debuted in the 1992 model year, it closely resembled the original concept,